the thesis question is really important, but it's not easy coming up with a thesis question. How did you come up with yours, Lisa?
A lot of talking. I just talked with people who knew something about the subject. I talked with my supervisors, I talked with colleagues, I talked with other PhD students as well, working sort of in the related field. So it was just a lot of discussions, and particularly talking to people whose opinions and knowledge of the subject that I respected as well. What about you?
Well, mine arose from my master's thesis. When I was wrapping that up and evaluating it, I spoke to somebody who said this was a really great start, but the really important question is, how do we engage with people who are resistant to club membership? So I went back to my master's supervisor and we had a chat about that and talked about how that could develop into a PhD, what kind of directions it could go in, whether or not he was the right person to supervise it or whether I should look elsewhere. So I was looking at the question and supervision at the same time, and we looked at different options and talked about one and decided he was the right person. And so it emerged from there. But because my thesis has got a lot to do with the community, it was actually quite important to talk to people in the community as well. And I'd have people stop me in the street and ask how things were going, and I'd tell them what I was doing and I'd get feedback from them. So getting the opinion of people outside academia was quite important.
I think I was surprised at how long it took. I think it certainly wasn't something that happened in an instant. It was a process, and it involved reflection, reading, looking at the literature that was in existence about the topic, but also looking at what wasn't there, and that all took time. It was a lengthy process, and it was reiterative. It wasn't a nice little fixed linear process.
No, it was a question of coming up with a question, and then it gets refined and refined and refined, and I don't even think it's finished yet. I'm partway through my thesis, but I think it may just get hemmed in a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's something that the books just don't say. The literature about coming up with a research question doesn't emphasise how long it can take. It doesn't say anything about the backwards and forwards. It can go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And it doesn't, no one really talks about the importance of talking. And the amount of talking that went on in the development of my research question was phenomenal.
Yeah, me too. It was certainly a very collaborative process, but a very rewarding one too.
If someone thinks they're going to shut themselves in a room and sit down and write a research question in half an hour, it's not going to happen like that.
No.